What is up, everybody? Yeah. I got cousin Curtis here in the house for our first official interview kind of style thing here on Performer's Dream. And I just want to give you a little background. I understand now why like Jimmy Fallon like talks about people and then brings them onto stage after he's talked about them, because it's gonna be real weird to talk about you while you're sitting right next to me. So I met Curtis a couple years ago. I actually saw a video of you playing a song at one of the local distilleries and was just like, dang, that's good. So went and checked out, the Spotify and kind of fell in love with the music. And then since then, we've done 3 or 4 events together at least. The first one, I had this crazy idea to start a backyard concert series and in a treehouse. And so, like one does.
Key detail.
Yes. And so the first person I reached out and asked I was like, I'm going to ask Curtis if he'll come and play in the treehouse. And if he says yes, then I'm going to do it. And in my mind, I was really thinking, there's no way this guy will ever say yes to this. And then he showed up, and now we've done it a couple times, and it's been fun. And
it's a blast.
Yeah. You did our Food and Wine Festival last year and provided all the music for that. So Curtis is incredible. Over the years, I started out as a DJ, and over the years, I've got the opportunity to be at a lot of camps and different places where they utilize musicians and events that utilize musicians. And I say this with complete sincerity when I can probably say 2 or 3 people that I've ever watched perform, I feel like had what it took to make it big. And you're one of those people.
I was waiting for it, but he's not one, he's still great.
No, I fully say it. I mean, one of those 3 had 2 Billboard top songs last year. So, all right. I mean, it was like 8 years after I met him. So you got 6 years and then Billboard number 1.
All right.
Oh, so with that, we figured the best way to start this is to have him play one of his songs. Also, there are some people watching, which is great. If you have comments, questions as we go through, make sure you put those up. So we'll be watching for those. But let's start with the tune, man.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks for being here, everybody. Time spent in cold Louisville, Kentucky. Drove for hours just to get there, and my love, didn't we look like fools? Played a show, and on I was even there. They didn't care, but that was life, and I was not waiting till we could pack up and run. But later that night, as the freezing rain fell, we looked a little deeper to fend off the hell of those nights that seemed to last forever. All those nights that seemed to last forever. All those nights that seem to last forever. All those nights that seem to last forever. Waiting on the sun like it's owing us money. Feels like I'm paying down debt on loans I've yet to get, honey. Oh, but we got it made. Hopefully heaven is watching, taking notes on these broke bones, laughing through all the hell of those nights we used to and our dreams like the flames would grow ever high. Please, moon, pull back the sun. There's more to be done. Don't let it rise till these two hearts are one on the nights that seem to last forever. All those nights, they seem to last forever. All those nights, they seem to last forever. All those nights, they seem to last forever. Nothing like a little freezing rain to set your love on fire. What else is there to do but give in to desire? On those nights, they seem to last forever. The nights, they seem to last forever. Ooh, on those nights, they seem to last forever. All those nights, they seem to last forever.
Yeah.
I think,
There you go. That's new.
brand new.
I was like, I don't know this one.
Yeah,
That's so much fun.
Yeah.
That's
Thanks, man.
awesome.
Appreciate it.
No, that's great. Hey, if you're watching, which there's a couple of you, let us know how that sounded coming through and stuff.
Yeah.
That's just good for future reference to know if we can do this kind of thing, because I love it. So
Yeah. And you're gonna do it. You say you're doing a DJ set on the next one, like
yeah,
Yeah.
wiki.
So-
Yeah, no,
this is beta test.
yeah. I quickly learned when I got into DJing and actually trying to scratch how little rhythm I actually have. And so
All
I
right.
quickly was like, nope,
Yeah.
music's not for me. So,
Got it.
you want to set that down and then we'll
Yeah.
jump into this, just so you don't have to awkwardly hold it the whole time.
I'm used to being awkward. So
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt during that. I was like, where do I look?
What do I do
Like,
with my
this is,
hands?
All right, so Curtis is here, and we're gonna have a bunch of different musicians that come through. We've got a couple interviews, but I wanted to talk to you specifically, and
Yeah.
we'll get your background first, and kind of some of those things. But just so people know where we're going, Curtis plays more show dates and tours than any person I've ever met. You are a psychopath when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk a lot, hopefully, about what it looks like to live a life on the road, how you've
Sure.
found success in that, and those kind of things. But before we get to that, give us some background. How did you get into music?
Yeah.
I know like a little of the transition phase, but some of that.
For sure. So got into music by going to a music festival when I was maybe 13 or 14 years old. My parents went and they brought us kids, and it was in Marquette, Michigan. It was called Hiawatha Music Festival. And that was the first time that I'd really seen musicians playing with one another around a late night bonfire. And I thought that they all knew each other because they were all playing the same song and they were playing well together, and they would trade solos and be like, all right, I'll play one, you play one. And they all just went around the fire. And I was blown away, completely enamored by what was happening. And so I said, I want in. I want that. I want that in my life. And so I vowed to pick up the guitar and tried to play it. And then, the same things of like, oh, my hands were too small in football practice and school and stuff like that.
Right.
So it wasn't until really that next year I went back to that festival then, as I think I was 15 then. So I went back and I was like, okay, no, after this year, after this festival, I'm getting a guitar and I'm going to learn how to play. So first I started learning on my mom's guitar, and it was a classical guitar. So it was 3 steel, 3 nylon strings, and the neck was like a tree trunk, but it just persevered. And I thank my parents for having the patience to let me do that. They did ask me to move to the pole barn a couple of times when I kept learning to try and play the beginning part of every song over and over and over again. But no, it was great. It was a lot of fun, and just stuck with it since then. And it was just an outlet. It was a hobby. It was a cool way to meet people. And I feel like little me would be pumped because at that time,
it was never an option to think about doing it full time.
So have you played that festival
No,
that you watched? Because that would be kind of
I would love to
a
do that.
beautiful full circle.
Yeah, maybe
All
at some point in time that I'll be a good fit for that one. Yeah,
that'd be cool.
yeah.
So and I don't know all this, in the transition period.
Mm-hmm.
So you were from Michigan.
Yeah.
Alaska in there somewhere.
Yeah. So graduated from Northern Michigan University with a teaching degree. And from there went down and taught in St. Lucia in the Caribbean for a semester. After that got done, came back to the States and did my first US tour. And it was basically a way to get to the West Coast and drop off applications and resumes.
Okay.
So I got to like Seattle and I was like, cool, Seattle's great. So I started finding schools online and dropping off resumes, cover letters, and then headed south all the way down to San Diego and hit up a bunch of different places, mostly on like the Pac Northwest and then down in Southern California. It just seemed like an exciting time to be out there. The catch-22 about being a first-year teacher or no-year teacher is nobody wants to hire you because you don't have any experience. So then I set my sights on somewhere I'd never been before, and that was Alaska. There's like a totally separate website that you can submit your cover letter, your resume, your credentials, transcripts to this website that just hires teachers in Alaska. It's called Alaska Teacher Placement. I don't even know if it exists anymore, but I took like a fair amount of time and just tried to make it. So I jumped off the page. I was like, I got to get a job, do this thing, do all the things. And then I submitted it to almost every single school district in the state of Alaska. And so I didn't know this at the time, but there were so many districts way out there that couldn't get anybody to apply. So I started getting callbacks immediately. How soon can you get here? Are you interested? Et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And these be places that are like a day's flight from Anchorage or from Fairbanks. And then you're there. And like, once you're there, you're there. You're not going anywhere. And that didn't necessarily scare me away, but they made it pretty clear. Like, if you're not going to be committed for over 2 years, it's almost best that you don't. Like, we'd still need your help, but it's not fair to the kids. And I was like, well, I can't make that guarantee right now at this point in time in my life. So I went to a different spot that was on the road system, and it was still fairly remote, but not too bad relative to the rest of the state of Alaska.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then from Alaska to Colorado?
Yeah. Right? So I was in Alaska for 4 years, taught there full-time 4 years. In the summer months, I'd go on tour. The tours kept getting better and better. I kept practicing and getting a little bit better, and wanted to see if I could do it full-time. So the summer tour of 2014 was the litmus test. That was, if you can pay all your bills just from playing music and playing shows and selling albums and stuff like that, go back, teach 1 more year, and then hit the road full-time and see if it works out.
Okay.
So summer of 2015, hit the road full-time and been doing it since.
Okay.
Bounced around the country for just over a year and ended up in the Front Range, ended up in Denver.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So 8 years basically now.
Yeah.
This is the start of the eighth year, I guess. Yeah. That's awesome. So what have you seen, or what do you think, in that process? I know for me, that transition, like where you're talking about that, like the litmus test and like, can I pay my bills with it?
Yeah.
That like transition year for me was like the hardest part, because you're trying to do both, and both are like at this level.
Yeah.
Like, it's no longer a hobby. You basically have 2 full-time jobs.
Yes.
For an extended period of time.
Yeah.
But what do you think were the biggest factors to kind of take that, 2-3 year period to be able to make the leap?
Minimize all of your overhead costs as much as humanly possible. Yeah, that was the only way that was possible. Like when we hit the road, it was my partner and I, and we had a tiny house and 2 dogs, and we sold everything we owned. So we didn't have a storage unit. We didn't have a mailing address. We didn't have a mortgage. We weren't paying rent. Literally everything was with us. We had like a glorified backpack of life.
Right.
And that was the only way that was possible, so that all of the major expenses while on the road for those first year to 2 years was food, car payment, insurance, and gas. Fuel was the obvious, like, huge cost,
right? Because
we were traveling so much. But that would be the number one recommendation. Like, if you're in a transition period or you're thinking about it, make sure that you can sustainably be alive. And if that means like you've got, find out what it is, find out what, like, go through and be like, what do I have to owe at the beginning or at the end of every month? And then divide it, kind of like our conversation previously, and figure out what do you have to do to hit X.
Right.
And, can you do that? And with gig work, as you know, week to week, month to month, it could be totally different.
Mm-hmm.
Like 1 month you could do, wow, top of the world. And the next month you're like, I shouldn't have spent that money. Like, I need that. Yeah.
That birthday party gig's looking pretty good right now. I'm going to go do that one.
Yeah, I'm going to say yes to that.
Yeah.
And kind of say yes to everything. That's also a bummer part of it, is like saying yes to everything, knowing that you have a value. And I feel like this should just be prefaced by, there's no one right way to do anything.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So like find a way that works for you and then make it work. And if it doesn't seem to work, bail and figure out a different way, but don't quit. Like you can bail on a plan, but you can't quit on the overall goal. You quit, no one remembers you. And then, well, why'd you start in the first place?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, for me, I think when you start down this road, there is something inside of you that is twisted and wrong that makes you want to pursue performing as a career. But you can't get rid of it. And so I think that's part of why I love the concept of this, is that if we can get people tools and learn from our mistakes and things to help make that easier, I think I wish I had this, right?
Yeah.
I wish I could have watched someone and gone, hey, that's a good idea.
I should have done that.
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes it's like the most obvious thing possible too, which is just tough, because you're like, oh my goodness. But yeah, it would be nice. It would be nice to have that. Yeah.
Avoiding back problems on the road.
Hey, Jacob. Avoiding that, exercise, stretch.
There you go.
Yeah. Recently, there's been it's like a different version of the Theragun, the muscle gun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of those lives in the van.
Oh, that's
and
smart.
we just kind of pass that thing around and like drill into your traps or your spine or your legs. But yeah, honestly, it's a lot of like stay mobile, drink water. Turns out your body needs it.
Yeah.
Sleep. Yeah. Rest, stretch, and move. That you have to move.
So last year, 2022, how many days were you on the road?
Whole year, not sure, but the busiest months, spring, summer, into fall, was 80% of the time.
Okay.
I could look up on my phone like the amount of days, but I want to say it was like 3 out of over 100 days. 80% of those were gone.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you take that out, 240.
Well, something like that, because winter, yeah,
because it slows down a little.
For
yeah,
sure. It was a lot.
Over 200.
Yeah.
Is that safe?
Yeah, because I wouldn't say it's over
days.
200 show dates, but it's definitely over 200 days of travel.
Yeah.
Because the off days, and we can touch on this, but there's a lot that I want to change to make this so that it's more sustainable. Because prior to this year, I hadn't lost my voice or canceled a show in 3-4 years, and that happened once and then almost again in the same 6-month stretch of time. And that's a good determining factor of cool it.
Right.
Yeah.
Pushing too hard
for
sure. He's saying what are tips for avoiding back problems? Yeah. Get the Theragun thing.
Get a foam roller, and exercise and stretch.
There you go. Drink lots of water.
That's it.
Very cool. So, all right. So I know I'm trying to figure out, this is a weird, so let's go to the beginning.
Yeah.
And how, because I know now you're with an agency,
mm-hmm.
But let's go back before that. If there was a before that, how were you finding gigs, booking gigs? What was the most common, successful, or just?
Dude, it was, so I like having the metrics of emails sent and how many shows and the miles. And I like looking at that to figure out what growth is, or not growth. And in that first year, out of, I don't know how many emails collectively we had sent to solicit a show or to try to get a show, but the success rate was 7%. And I played 150 shows in that first year, close to 150 shows in that first
year. That's actually a really high success rate. 7%. Most people say it's 1 or 2.
Oh wow! I got lucky.
Emails. Yeah. No, that's impressive.
Yeah. honestly though, the biggest tip would be like, send the email, keep it short and sweet. This is who you are. This is what you do. Here's a picture. Here's a video. We have these dates open. So like if you're still booking for yourself, and again, there's no one right way to do it. But I think from my experience alone, if you're booking for yourself, don't go on like this big, long soliloquy of who you are and your background and the type of energy you bring to the stage or the songwriting prowess or whatever, because people who are booking are getting emails, talent buyers are getting emails routinely. And so they want something that's like, hey, here who I am. Here's what I do. Here's a link first and foremost.
Right.
Here's a link. Would love to play your venue. These are the available dates. And email them 4 months before those dates and then follow back up. Right. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. Although in my experience, sometimes squeaky wheel just gets taken off and replaced. So
right.
yeah. So you got to kind of walk that fine line. But yeah, that's what we did for over a year. No, for like 2 years until getting linked up with an agent, and then that agent being hired by a larger agency and being kind enough to bring me with him to that larger agency. And now things are looking really good.
So how did that first getting an agent happen?
I wrote a cry for help letter to 12 different booking agents and managers.
Okay.
All the way from folks that I thought that I had either seen live and I was like, I think I can do what you do. I think I can play these venues, like having that self-confidence, not ego or being arrogant, but just like, I think I could do this.
Yeah.
And then all the way up to like, at that point, Chris Stapleton's and some others that I thought were just completely unreachable, but I wanted to see what happens. Yeah. And so out of the 12 emails I sent, 2 responded. One was a manager and one was an agent. The agent obviously said yes, Tyler Rem. At that time, he was based out of Madison, Wisconsin. Now he's in Palatine, Illinois. But anyway, and the manager was the manager for Zach Deputy, I want to say. And I don't know if you've heard of Zach Deputy, but Zach, you're a monster, dude. You're awesome.
He's never going to see this, but I appreciate
you
that.
Never know.
Shoot the
He's
shot.
cool. He's been out here before. He's been inside, right? So his manager reached out and was like, what are you looking to achieve? And I told him, like, we had a phone call. And I was like, well, this is what I'm looking for. He goes, you don't need a manager right now. You need a booking agent. He's like, when you start to freak out about life on the road, inventory, merchandise coming in, going out, funds, how to do X, Y, and Z, where are you sleeping, where are you eating? When you can no longer control those things because life is so crazy, that's when you need a manager. And he's like, and also keep in mind, if you're grossing X amount of dollars, you're not going to be able to get a manager because they don't want 10% of your $100 or $200 gigs. They're going to want 10% of your this gig and that gig.
10,000.
Yeah, something like that.
Absolutely.
Or 20%, or it depends on the label or the management company, honestly.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's
so still self-managed, but curious. Is anybody out there?
If the right person was watching.
Even for like a little bit, like the inventory, I'm kind of freaking out. So yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What else, what would you say if you, and maybe 3 is too many because I'm not sure I could think of 3, but to young up and coming musicians that want to do this, not just as a hobby, not want to play some cover songs, what would you give advice? 1 to 3 things. First off is don't quit. Kind of what I said before. And these some of these might be pieces of advice that I asked for that I got. But that first one is the biggest. Don't quit. Like when you're in a spot where you realize that failure is not an option, it really only gives you one option, and that is success. So try to fool your mind into believing that is relieving stress from your life, being like, you can't fail, so you have to succeed, and you have to succeed because you must. That's your only option. Aside from that, when you get into a room of other musicians or individuals in the music business, listen and ask questions more than you talk or give advice. I learned that one the hard way by walking in and thinking I needed to prove that I belonged in the room. And it very quickly became, this person doesn't stop talking about themselves or doesn't stop talking about
accomplishments or who they've been with or bragging. That's what it usually comes
Right.
off as. And then just hone your craft, man. Like if you're doing it now, great. How do you get better? Is like, if you want ultimately to sell more CDs, to play better venues and to get a better audience, write and perform better songs. If you're a comedian, tell better jokes. Like, and I'm not trying to trivialize it and make it seem like it's easy, because it's not, but that's basically the nuts and bolts of it.
Yeah.
Get really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's only going to happen from experience.
Hey, speaking of that, next week's episode is find places to be bad. That's what I'm going to be talking about.
Who are you interviewing?
You don't myself.
Oh,
yeah. No, I've done a lot of that. Like I've got tons of experience in that one. No, but that's one of the pieces of advice that I got and have heard over and over from people is find places to be bad. I mean, that I don't think there's stand-up. I'm jealous of stand-up comedians for open mic nights, because it is 100% entirely created with that mentality. Like, here's your testing grounds. Like, here you go. In music and magic, I feel like your testing ground is like, you can't go back. Like, if you bomb, you're not getting hired at that gig again.
Yeah.
Like, you got to find a new one. And
Right.
so just finding places to be bad and hone that craft, because like you said, sometimes the only way to do it is in front of audience and see what they say.
Yeah. And with that, it's not comfortable, but be transparent and be awkward sometimes and be like, this is a brand new song. And if you think you already got it dialed in, play the song or tell the joke, do the trick, and then tell people afterwards. So you're not prefacing what you're about to do as lowering the audience's expectations, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that would be something that I wish somebody told me, is like, it's okay to tell people you're trying something new, and then you're the one that gets to decide whether you want to or not.
Right.
Like, yeah, then roll with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in today's day and age, people are looking and hungry for authenticity more than any time in probably the past 10 years.
Yeah.
There's so much fake, everything, social media, whatever, you want to go down that road, that when someone is genuine, I think it connects in a way that people are craving.
Absolutely.
That. So
yeah.
I think that's a great piece. What else? Yeah, do that. And we don't have to do too much here, but what else would you say? So like, I think for me, one of the pieces that I missed for the first half of my career was the business side of being a performer. What have you learned along those lines? We've had some conversations about this stuff, but what have you learned? What would you pass on in that world?
Ask for help.
Yeah.
Ask for help. Like, I'll get here, full transparency and hopefully authenticity. That first year of playing music full time, like 2015 into 2016, I had generated income and spent money in 26 different states. Taxes were a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. And so I reached out to an accountant and I was like, what do I have to do? Like, I have all of these receipts. We have all of the records. We have mileage to plug it in to be like, what's this data deduction for mileage and blah, blah, blah. Right. And technology has come a long way. So there are free opportunities to help with that. But when it comes to like the money going in and the money going out, know where it's coming in, what's coming in from, and where it's going out, and then ask for help. Like, as far as like the business side of it, monetarily, that would be my big piece of advice. Right there. When it comes to the business aspect of like, yes, you're great on stage, but how do people find out about you? That I think is probably one of the hardest parts, because in my mind, at least, you have to be really okay and tactful about talking about yourself.
It's terrible. It's
awful.
It's the worst thing. Yeah.
Because it just sucks, because like, if you're not comfortable promoting yourself, nobody else is going to do it either. So you got to know, like, when somebody asks, what's your name? Don't stutter, don't stammer. What kind of music do you play? What kind of tricks do you do? What kind of jokes do you tell? Absolutely 100% know the answer now. Not like, oh, well, it's kind of when I first started, I don't know if we're not.
Do it.
Editing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, go
All right,
for it.
When I first started, people would be like, what kind of music do you play? I'd be like, it's kind of like blues, folk, rock, jam, a little bit of bluegrass. And they were like, what are we getting here? Like, this is like too many toppings on ice cream so that we don't even know what the music is, the ice cream.
Right.
Like, we got nothing. And so it's not necessarily a bad thing to be like, this is what I play. And if they're curious, then give more
Right.
detail. So it's like all of that now has been stripped down to what kind of music do you play? Root stomp. Huh. What's that like? It's like if blues and bluegrass had a baby. Interesting. What instruments are involved? And now you've got a dialogue. You've got a conversation going. But if you lead in with a 30-word soliloquy about what kind of music you play, you might lose people.
Right.
Or you might not. What do I know?
No, you know. Is Root Stomp your creation?
No.
Okay.
I don't think I'm that creative.
All
I
right.
think that came from somewhere else, and I don't remember. I just did an interview not long ago, and they asked the same question, like, did you come up with this? And I was like, I wish.
Yeah.
Because it sounds cool. But no,
Right.
there's like other people that are using Root Stomp in their descriptions. I don't know. I've had it for years. I just do not know where it came from.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
If someone out there in the universe
Yeah.
knows, let us know.
There's like an Irish band called Root Stomp, so maybe they know. Ask them. They're good.
Okay.
They're great.
There we go.
Yeah.
I had something I was gonna say in your. Oh, so you're talking about the confidence to talk about yourself. I legitimately, up until probably, man, it's been at least the last 3 or 4 years, when someone asked me what I did, could not physically say I'm a magician. I couldn't do it.
I love it.
It haunted me. Like, I was just like, this is weird. Like, I don't want the follow-up question. And it's always
do a
like,
trick.
Yeah. Or that. Half the time though, it's I'm a magician, and they're like, oh, what instrument do you play? And it's like, So you get that because no one thinks magician. Like no one gets that. So, but I do think there has been a change in the last couple of years as I've become more like that's who I am. That's what I do. That's met better than the like him hawing around or not giving a straight answer or whatever. So I think that's a good piece of advice. Something else, I have to bring this up and then we can probably wrap it up if we're ready. 30 minutes, that's not bad.
I thought you said 4 hours. I was like, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to really dive in.
You said something when we were playing golf a while ago about chart your rate and what you're charging. And you were talking about time spent before. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Go into that because I had never heard this. And I think it's one of the most beautiful explanations for having that confidence when you are presenting a price tag in front of someone. Because I think any gig worker knows there's a point where you're like, man, am I really getting paid this much, like to do this thing that I love?
Yeah.
But you said something, I'll let you go. I think it's fantastic. So
in a nutshell, it's basically pricing yourself at a point that justifies the amount of work that you've put into getting to that point. So like, yes, you might be getting paid X amount of dollars for this one gig, but that is also paying for the hours and the days or years of preparation going into that. Not to mention just like the mileage you have to drive or fly, the amount of equipment you have to bring or facilitate. So it's funny now, but it's interesting. People ask, and if I tell them the truth or whatever, it's like usually I'm pretty closed in about like money coming in, money going out.
Mhm.
It's a personal thing. But if they ask and I'm feeling like I want to tell them, then I tell them and they're like, wow, that's incredible. And it's like, okay, yeah, but if you divide that amongst the hours of work that I didn't get paid for that got me to this point, it's really not that much.
Right.
It seems like a lot because it's coming in at one time. And I imagine it's similar to like people in big ticket sales. The amount of time that they got turned away or the amount of times that they had to show a house, like in the realty business,
Mhm.
and somebody said no, or like they're waiting and they can do all of this work to try and get that final paycheck and it falls away underneath their feet. or they finally get it, that's being divided up amongst the amount of time that got them that point.
Right.
So I think it's one of those things, like,
Yeah.
where it's important to understand yourself, your value, and know that sometimes you have to play the shows that you have to in order to play the shows that you want to or need to.
Right.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
Not everybody's going to have a budget, but you got to kind of weigh those options and be like, all right, well, I can pick up a couple of these so that this is more realistic. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love the idea of the backlogged time. I mean, I think I actually, right before we were jumping on this, I had a memory on Facebook that was about musicians and what you're paying for. And it's talking about, the gear, the equipment, the years spent, all that kind of stuff, which is so true. But I never had thought in my mind, I'd never gone back further than that, for those early days when you were putting in, I feel like I put in more hours practicing and working in those first, 8 to 10 years when I wasn't getting paid than I do now.
Yeah.
And so without that, you don't get this, I think. So I love that. Yeah. Jacob's in it. Let's do it.
4 hours would be great.
Let's go. Gonna need some more caffeine or something for sure. So, well, anything else you want to say advice wise?
Follow this man. Follow him online. Ty Gallenbeck, mind blown, magician, and absolutely incredible. Travels around a bunch, puts on a show, one of the best magic shows. I love magic. And are you still doing the thing where you give everybody the secrets at the end of the show if they want them? All right. So at the end of the show, he gives you the option to open up the secrets to all of the tricks that he does. And you just have that option. And I'm happy to say that I've seen the show twice, and it's different each time. It's amazing. It's incredible. And I still don't want to know the secrets because I want to be mesmerized, and it's mesmerizing. So go follow him, go to a show.
Thank you. I appreciate that a ton. And speaking of that, where can people find you?
Coming up next, immediately, if you're tuning in here tomorrow, Guarana Ranch, playing a show there. It's half private, half public. It's going to be lit. It's going to be fun.
Which is in Telluride, Colorado.
Telluride, Colorado. Mid-mountain.
People don't know. Yeah.
10,000 feet elevation.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a beach in the snow. Like, it's one of the coolest things ever.
Yeah.
So,
it's great.
Yeah.
And then in Denver at the Black Buzzard on Market Street, downtown Denver, January 26th. And that will be with a couple of different bands. I'm going to blank on the names, but Jackson Harkness is going to be there. And oh my God, I'll figure it out. Sorry guys, I'm botching this one, but January 26th, come find out for yourself. Tickets available online. That's in Denver. And then from there, we just announced we're going to be a part of Hill Fest in Eden, Utah, April 6th and 7th, sharing the stage with the California Honey Drops, Dwayne Betts. I mean, the lineup is absolutely amazing. We're stoked to be a part of that, and tickets are available today.
And that's Eden, Utah, because I know we have some people that tune in from Utah, Salt Lake City area. So,
oh, yeah. Not too far from Salt Lake, and there'll be some more dates coming through in that Salt Lake area here soon. Just can't talk about it live yet.
Nice. At Cousin Curtis on Instagram.
All that.
Cousin Curtis online, Spotify, all those things. Go listen.
Please.
Yeah, no, it's I have frequently been walking by my daughter's bedrooms when Cousin Curtis is blaring, and it's like a great dad moment for me. I'm like, you've got great taste. You've got great taste. Like, it's perfect. So I love that so much. So definitely go check him out. The 26th, also Great Day, Colorado.
That's right.
Yes. I'm so pumped about this.
We're gonna be live on TV thanks to this guy right
together.
here.
We're
Great Day, Colorado on the 26th in the morning.
Yeah, it's gonna be super fun. Yeah, that was a crazy. I was over there, and then I saw he was gonna be there, and so that'll be a fun episode. I feel like Western Slope is like super represented in that.
Yeah,
it's cool.
We're bringing it home.
So West Slope, Best Slope.
That's
right. All right. Do you want to do one more song? Can I ask you to do one more? I think we should close out with one more song. Let's do it. We got a few people watching. Let's go. Let's do one more song. Because I think that's, I want to hear it. So I may walk off camera so I don't have to awkwardly stare. And,
What if you do this part? I'll do this part.
Nobody wants that.
I think it'd
Nobody
be great.
wants that.
We're gonna do this. We're gonna turn it into improv.
I was. This is a fun story for you. I was at a camp, a summer camp thing, and the musician had this like song. It was a new song he was putting out, and it had this like background vocals thing. So he asked like 6 of us staff that were at the camp with him, hey, like, and it was just this super easy, like, whatever it was. I need you guys to do this. Out of those 6 people, I was the only person. He said, yeah, maybe you shouldn't do this. Mike, you're right. So
nothing like getting publicly roasted.
Yeah, I'll stick to card tricks. That's all I got.
Thick skin. You're all right. You're all right. Yeah. All right. Yeah, let's have some.
I know. I just put him on the spot. So.
Afternoon, I was hanging upside down, my wrist caught the door, smelling fumes all around. Next thing I see is a spark that did ignite. My hair's on fire, but I can say never had a bad day in my life. No, never had a bad day in my life. I traveled the world on something fast, on someone else's dime. No, never had a bad day in my life. I burn the candle, light both ends, it feels mighty nice. Some tell me I'm lucky or I'll sit you on your back. I live like I'm lightning and you ain't seen nothing yet. Spent the night in the backseat of a rusted out junkyard car, knowing one day my hard work was gonna make me a star. Singing na, never had a bad day in my life. I travel the world on something fast, on someone else's dime. No, never had a bad day in my life. I burn the candle, light both ends, and feel mighty nice. You gotta have the long yards before you get to what's good. Nobody ever got anywhere with while being told to do what they should. I'm looking for the last big splash, and then I'm gone. Tip your head to a sliver moon, you can see me hanging on. Go ahead, hit it. You see me hanging on. No, never had a bad day in my life. I'll travel the world on something fast, on someone else's dime. No, never had a bad day in my life. I burn the candle at both ends, but it feels mighty nice. Well, we're cut from the same cloth, kid, you and I. It's fine to nice to meet someone who's living like they're alive. Now remember, you gotta pay your dues before you get the people paying you. And until then, all you really can do is just sing a little bit of this tune. Sing it now, never had a bad day in my life. I traveled the world on something fast, on someone else's dime. No, never had a bad day in my life. I traveled the world on something fast, on someone else's dime.
Oh man, I love that one. That one's in our pre-show playlist every week.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's great.
That's awesome. This guy.
And I said we're playing out, so we're going to play out with that. But now I have to bring you back so you can share the story of how you got the inspiration to write that song, because I love
Anytime.
that story too.
It's a good
So
one.
we'll make that a separate songwriting class.
Yeah,
there you go.
Let's do that.
All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to Performer's Dream. Share this with your friends. If there are people that are tuning in, have questions, what do we got here? Coming back to Michigan soon. Also, this was my favorite road tripping song on the drive from Fairbanks to Michigan. There
Yeah. Coming back to Michigan, definitely summertime. Not exactly sure when, but stay tuned on the website and all of those postings to figure out exactly when.
Yeah. There we go. So cool. If you know people who are musicians, comedians, magicians, whatever, performers, YouTubers, we have an interview with some YouTube podcast people coming up as well. Anything in that kind of performers line of work, send them this way. I think I was telling him, I was like, I have no idea who's going to see this ever. But I wish I had it. And so I hope someone out there finds it. And if one person, it makes a difference. Perfect. So Curtis, thank you so much for being here, man. I appreciate it so much.
Appreciate you.
Thank you for tuning in. Anybody that watched, and go listen to Curtis on Spotify as much as possible. All the time. This is where it gets weird because we have to end it.